And there was no rest for the weary because we are back with another episode of JMU Sound Off after the Dukes dispatched Weber State 45-10 in front of 24,965 fans in Bridgeforth Stadium and a sea of purple outside. An incredible day. Not sure if you could draw up a better weather day, even an imagination for what we experienced yesterday in Harrisonburg. Just an all-around great day. And we're going to get into all of that today as we look forward not only to what happened yesterday, but look forward into what we expect to see in the game at Louisville on Friday night. Before we get into tonight's episodes, want to thank our sponsors, Skyline Financial Partners. Want to give a special congratulations to Tim Nelson and his family on the birth of their second child. So congratulations. I know he wanted to be in Bridgeport yesterday, but celebrating a great moment for his family. So congratulations. But in terms of Skyline, you can empower your family for lasting financial success by visiting SkylineFinancialPartners.com. Also got a chance to see a lot of bottles of Champions Drive bourbon out in the tailgate lots. Remember, every bottle that you purchase goes to support student athletes and our pursuit of championships. You can find an ABC store near you at abc.virginia.gov. Had a chance to see Mike Norwood and the team from Where's Woody yesterday out in the tailgate lots, debuting their new short sleeve solar tees. Great to see so many people picking up that gear. If you didn't get a chance to get it while on campus yesterday, remember that for 48 hours after every Sound Off broadcast, you can get 25% off his entire site by using promo code SoundOff25, and that's at where'swoody.com. Also, a shout out to Purple Nation. Got a chance to see Carol Benazzi yesterday. She has a new store in Midlothian. You're going to want to check that out for all your JMU gear, with also locations in Northern Virginia. We've got them in the west end of Richmond and in coastal Virginia as well. And as always, at yourpurplenation.com. Shout out to Shoker Enterprises as well as the Dead Meat Society. We had a chance to recognize our tailgater of the week, which was Taylor Benson from Botetourt, Virginia. You could check out that video on all of our social channels. And if you would like to join the movement for grilling enthusiasts, visit deadmeatsociety.com. And then finally, Outdoor Kitchen Creations. If you're looking to take your outdoor kitchen to the next level, visit backyardtrends.com. And we want to give one more final shout out, not from a sponsorship perspective, but to the JMU marketing staff as well as JMU athletics in general, giving our team a chance to experience the new field suites in the end zones of Bridgeforth Stadium. Just a remarkable way to watch the game. And we had an opportunity to talk to Brad Burgess, who is the Associate Athletic Director for Ticketing and Strategic Revenue, about what fans could expect to see in those field suites. I'm going to play that interview now.
When Matt Rowan became the athletic director of James Madison University, he made a commitment to fans that he would not only find unique and creative ways to generate revenue for the program, but to also offer premium and unique experiences to fans. Well, boy, did him and his team deliver in a big way. And today, we are giving you an exclusive look at the new field suites inside Bridgeforth Stadium.
This is a unique opportunity to be right in on the action. It's an elevated platform on our APC patio in our south end zone. It's got 14 really comfortable seats, a high level, low level. You're literally in the end zone, going to have the opportunity to celebrate when touchdowns are made. You have TVs, you have parking, have the ability to get all kinds of food and beverages right in your suite. It's going to be an awesome opportunity. You got coaches and players walking right by. It's unlike anything we ever had here at Bridgeforth Stadium. We can't wait to have you out. Please contact the JMU ticket office if you are interested. We do still have have suites available for the rest of the season. So give us a call. Love to have you out.
All right, and once again, thank you to Brad Burgess, Jeff Polglace, Matt Rowan, and the entire team there. Learn more again by contacting the ticket office. There are still suites available. We're going to post on our social channels what dates those suites are still available. So if you're interested, you can get a hand on one of those. And with that, we're going to bring in the rest of our Sound Off team for this afternoon's episode. We've got Taylor Atkins, Michael Evangelista, producer Chandler's in the other room in my house. He's keeping us honest today. We're going to bring on Afton in a few minutes to help us also preview the Louisville game. But guys, pretty special day in Harrisonburg. It was nice to enjoy the field suites with you and your families and friends. Michael, I'll go to you. Pretty special day.
I think that's an understatement, John. It was pretty phenomenal weather-wise. It was great to get the tailgating crew back together. The suite was amazing. I think for the first time in a while, we were at the stadium maybe an hour before kickoff to kind of experience the pageantry. My buddy Ryan just had a baby, so his name is Callum, and what a first experience for the future JMU grad of 2047. And it was just really cool. And I think the best part too is we were able to go to the suites, or not the suites, the club area a little bit as well, and enjoy that at halftime. It was a really unique experience, but also to see like the student section completely full right before kickoff, and you could tell there was a lot of excitement and buzz going into this game after a relatively like calm off season outside of the quarterback situation. But yeah, it was great to be back in the Berg.
Yeah, and Taylor, it was really great to see your kids got a coin toss toy from the officials in that field suite. That was one of the unique things of the day, and probably a memory they're going to have for forever. It was awesome to see them as well. They were definitely cheering the Dukes on and enjoying those touchdowns that happens in the end zone as well. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Nick and Owen Rowe. Owen is my son James' best buddy from school, and to be able to bring them up and experience the game the way we did. So another shout out to the field suites that we had in the end zone there. If you have kids, I mean, they're just going to absolutely love it. Both the boys got to shake hands with the players during warm-ups after the game when they were coming into the tunnel. I think Owen looked at his dad and said, I'm never washing this hand again, which I don't know if that's going to actually hold up. But no, if you have kids, I mean, those suites are great. But if you have not kids, you're an adult. I think just watching Michael run around with his camera, getting some of the great shots during the game. I mean, it was just a great experience. And the weather, I can't remember a better weather day for college football in Harrisonburg than what we had yesterday. So not a lot to complain about. The JMU Nation showed up. And again, also like Michael said, shout out to the students for getting there early and being loud.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out just the entire experience yesterday, not just the from our perspective, but just the new team entrance. I thought was awesome. I thought the students that do their run out now as a part of it had energy that I mean, they're usually energetic, but they were a whole nother level yesterday, the group that they brought into the end zone. And it just, all came together and were pretty special. We had the new president on the field leading a chant, and he continues to make his presence felt, as well as just a bunch of new stuff happening. The beach theme, we had the students getting doused with water guns in the end zone, and they were there early. I mean, as early as we were in the stadium, that student section was packed. And something I know Taylor has mentioned on multiple occasions, these sellout crowds, the atmosphere that maybe we take for granted sometimes is not the norm across all of the Group of Five and college football. This is an exception, and it just seems to be getting bigger. And we'll get into later in the show some conversations about what the future could look like around this venue. But from my perspective, I just don't know from a game day ops perspective and the way Mother Nature also cooperated, if you could get a better day to set the stage for what we all believe is a special season that is ahead of us. And the team really followed suit to start off in an incredibly hot fashion, which, we saw last year. That was something that they didn't do. It was good to see them coming out firing on all cylinders. And when we start the game, we all wondered who would be under center for JMU. And guess what? It was Alonzo Barnett. And pretty amazing. 9 months to the day for when he suffered a pretty significant injury. I know, Taylor, I want to give you, that was just a special moment and a script you just couldn't write.
I mean, he's the kind of player you just want to cheer for. He's been diehard JMU. He has stuck out, some pretty unique circumstances that a player would face as part of a college football team. Whether it be injuries, whether it being benched. I mean, he came out there. It was almost a storybook way to write the thing that he was the first guy to score that touchdown in the fashion he did. And, they talked a little bit about this after the game. One thing that Katie Harper from the DNR asked about was, no knee brace. And they asked him about that. And he said, I feel more comfortable without it. I got the green light to do it. And so that just – hearing that and watching the way he played, I didn't feel he played hesitant. I didn't feel like he was trying to protect anything. I mean, he just looked like the Alonzo Barnett that we've seen and that much of the national media has seen in terms of a lot of the preseason accolades that he's received.
Yeah, and he goes 14 to 22, 130 yards, gets a rushing touchdown as well as throwing one through the air. Moved well in the pocket, which was something I think we were all looking to see is would he be more stationary? I didn't personally see anything that would show that there's any hesitation for him. He looked like he had command of the offense, especially that was one of the benefits of being where we were from a vantage point perspective, as especially when JMU was inside the red zone, you could see him directing traffic and really quarterbacking this offense, not just physically quarterbacking, but the mental side of what goes in. He seemed as sharp as ever, and that leadership was on full display. Michael, anything you saw from him that stood out, or but just an overall good start to the season?
Yeah, that was a beautiful story, right? 9 months to the day, having his first touchdown be a zone read, him rushing into the end zone on that knee was pretty phenomenal. I think Taylor had mentioned didn't have his knee brace, but also he got blindside pretty hard on that sack in the third quarter, and he got right back up. And I think they were talking about it like, is that going to be the moment, right? He got hit for the first time, pretty head on, got right up, knee looked really great. So that was really awesome to see. And also important note, we went 4-for-4 drives in the first half, all for touchdowns.
Yeah.
Majority led by AB3. I thought that was pretty phenomenal. And you saw Kennedy's evolution a little bit. And obviously, I don't think we're going to see much out of this game. I think we handled Weber State well, but they moved him around a little bit in the pocket. We ran a couple new option plays, which I think were pretty awesome to get Wayne Knight in space. That allowed Alonzo Barnett to kind of showcase some of his mobility. I think we're seeing hopefully an evolution on Kennedy's play calling. And we haven't even talked about, QB2 or QB1.5 Matt Sluka's debut, which, pretty awesome for him to rush for a touchdown as well as throw for a touchdown and offer another variety in the offense, or offer another wrinkle, which I think was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and if you listen to the post-game conversation with Coach Chesney, that he was very complimentary of Sluka. He was 3 for 4 with a touchdown in the air, 1 on the ground. He did throw an interception, but Chesney was very clear in pointing out that he thought he was very close to breaking some of those runs, and he said that that's something to look forward to in the future. And this really is going to give opposing defenses, that much more to prepare for, is not knowing what you're going to see when every time JMU offense drives out on the field. And I think it does present some unique challenges. There is an open-ended question of what we will see next. Is this the rotation we're going to see, against Louisville? Is this something that's going to be more select based on game type situations? But it is good to know that both of them got some experience, and as well as also saying, hey, JC Evans ran in a touchdown as well. So 3 quarterbacks getting into the action and showing that we have depth at a position that you have to have depth at to be successful. And that to me was something that I don't think you can emphasize enough because of what it will mean. We've all seen there's going to be plays where you're going to need to have a second or third quarterback, and it was good to see all of them have some success in the game. We also saw really good pass protection, I thought, from the offensive line. We got a chance to see our first look at this new wide receiver room, which we're going to get to in a second. But I want to start with the rushing attack. JMU rushed for 313 yards on 44 carries. We've talked a lot about this running back room, guys like Adehi, George Pettaway, but the man who really stood out for me was Wayne Knight. What'd you guys see from him?
Well, before we do that, John, I mean, people remember this game. I feel like there was a lot of questions around the lull after halftime and us kind of coming out a little bit slow. You had mentioned Sluka almost breaking a run. Right before he threw that interception, I swear he was a shoelace away from a 65-yard touchdown. And the only reason why he threw that pick was because of a busted coverage. We had Iodei, who was completely open, and they had a guy rush over there last second, and Sluka thought he had a go-ahead touchdown. And I don't mind that throw. Maybe just throw it a little farther, but it was for as much as we've heard the groaning coming out of halftime, there were a couple plays there that I thought we had probably 2 touchdowns that we potentially could have had coming out of halftime. But I thought Sluka played really well. I think what was interesting, too, is when he was in on his running plays, he was lined up with Joby Mallory. So you look at a 5'11", 240-pound lead blocker at times. I thought that was a nice little wrinkle for them up front, particularly on his rushing touchdown and also when he was going for the first downs. But rushing attack-wise, when I look at this game, obviously people will see, I think we threw for under 200 yards, but we still had 300-plus yards on the ground. They did exactly what we wanted to see. The offensive line was blowing Weber State off the ball. No matter who was in there, we played, I think, 2 true freshmen this game. But Wayne Knight, man, 7 carries, 89 yards, 59-yard touchdown run that kind of sealed the game in the fourth. I think it was the first play in the fourth quarter. Should have had a kick return for a touchdown outside of a hold. But, talk about a player that has just kept building himself and building and building. And someone that we haven't really talked about. We kept talking about George Pettaway, Jordan Fuller, Iowa Day coming back. All these other players, right? And we were like, hold on, Wayne Knight's still here, and he started the game, and he was probably the most effective. But like I said, the most impressive part is this O-line was blowing people off the ball. And I get it, it is Weber State, but you're looking at they did exactly what we wanted to see from an FBS program facing an FCS opponent.
And obviously, George Pettaway gets 10 carries, 99 yards for his game. We saw a little bit of Joby Mallory's impact that he can have. Sluka and Barnett obviously contributing in the running game. We even had a punter run the ball for 7 yards in the game. We'll probably get to that a little later. But Michael, I mean, Taylor, I want to get to you because it's a player you mentioned in the lead up to yesterday's game that we were all excited to see was Mikey Scott. He gets into the flow of the game yesterday in a big way. As our freshman wide receiver with a lot of hype, it was good to see him contribute early. Obviously did have a moment he's going to want back, but there's an opportunity for him to grow from that. What'd you see from Michael Scott? There we go, John.
No.
There you go.
There we go.
Happens once a year for all of us.
Listen, this is the first week jitters. You saw it with some of the guys on the field yesterday. You're going to see it on the podcast. But
it's also the first. It's also the first game recap after a late night too.
Yes, very. Michael Scott, he led the team receptions, right? As a true freshman, and there were a couple of those catches that he had out in the open. If you go back and look at the game, just his footwork, man. I mean, the more confident he gets as he gets into the season. I mean, this is his first time going up against Division I talent, and I don't care if it's FCS or FBS. It's a different level of play than he's used to in the high school ranks. And I think the more experience he gets, that raw athleticism and that footwork that I saw in the games yesterday, I imagine he's one of those players that by the end of the season, you're going to see massive improvement. And I think to go out there and lead the team in receptions as a freshman, especially in a game, two things. One, where you're not passing the ball a ton, you didn't need to. And three, you're kind of pulling off the gas late in the game. I'm really excited to see what he can do when the passing game is on the line and when it's really needed. So Michael Scott, very impressive for a first game, true freshman. And also, I'm big on shouting out the off the field stuff too. He's just a great guy. If you listened to our episode last week, this was a guy that spent 2 hours at Meet the Dukes playing catch and throwing routes with kids in the end zone. So everything that I want to see in a Duke. And so big shout out to Michael Scott.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is how they use Mikey Scott. I think they moved him around. There was a lot of formations, and as we think about what next week looks like, we threw in the end around, right, that Louisville's going to have to plan for. We threw some bubble screens, some throwbacks, and also what's interesting is outside of him, I think we had 8 different receivers or players catch a pass. And I don't know if you've watched the game. We had Logan Kyle down the middle for I think most of the first half. I think he had 2 catches for 31 yards. Then we sprinkled in some Wayne Knight, sprinkled in Mikey Spot. But once we got to the end zone, we threw to our 6'2" and 6'3" wide receivers that we never had last year. And I thought it was, I don't know about you all, but I guess it was being at the field level. We are so much better at wide receiver now. Yeah. They just look different, right? And you looked at a lot of the formations that we did. We ran a lot of like bunch trips, right? Trips left. We weren't very complicated on offense, but like even when we threw those bubble screens, we have big bodies that were blocking those DBs, opening up room. We just looked different, and I loved it. And also contested balls last year, I don't think we would have been winners. And seeing Landon Ellis,
how sweet was that catch? By the way,
that was amazing.
If go back and watch that,
we didn't have players like that last year, which I think is super exciting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he made that catch happen. I mean, that was not. It was a great throw, but you had a receiver make the catch.
Yeah, and he had to kind of contort his body to pull it down and get his feet in. I thought that was special. Isaiah Alston catches a touchdown right in front of us, which we got a chance to see his celebration at the end of it, which was kind of fun. But that is not a small part of it because you can see the energy he brings to the field, the confidence. That if I had to come up with one word for this receiver group, it was confidence. It just seemed to flow through the entire unit, and that's the type of thing that is going to help whoever is our quarterback in some of these games where it's on the line, is knowing you have a group of wide receivers who are confident they can go up and get it. Was really impressed. Again, Mike out there was a really good point mentioning our tight ends, Logan Kyle looking good, but just really, really impressive across the board. And we did control the line of scrimmage. I do want to transition though, if we can though, to the defensive side of the ball, because for me, this was the unit where there were so many questions going into the season. There was a lot of hype. We'll start with you, Michael. What did you see from the defense? We did force 3 turnovers yesterday, which was something that you love to see because that was kind of a hallmark of this unit last year, was our ability to kind of lead in that arena of football, and it was good to see that played out in action yesterday.
Yeah, three interceptions, I believe, off tip passes, and I'll cite one of our friends from the podcast, Chase Kitty. He had a great tweet this morning. Goes, this defense did exactly what they were supposed to do against this type of offense, right? I think we outgained them 3-1, held them under 100 yards until the fourth quarter. And I think what really stood out, and this is just the nerd in me, right, is we always talked about how this defensive line is 10 deep. And we rotated the defensive line every series. So our starting D-line was really interesting. We had Sahir West, who's a freshman, Manny Bush, we all know about, Terry Lockett, who's finally fully healthy, and then Mark Thomas started on the other side. And on the next series, we had Xavier Holmes, who we were really excited about, transfer from Maine, Kels Bush, Gobira starting on the other side. I thought he got his legs back underneath him from this game. And I'll tell you a player that, selfishly I'll shout out, but also had a great game, Andrew Tadeo, the Colgate transfer. I loved his aggressiveness. He had a roughing the passer penalty, I think, in the third quarter in the end zone, but he was everywhere. And he was a former All-Patriot player, and I think you're going to see him making an impact in the rotation. Not a player I think that would have stood out, like looking into the seasons, particularly how deep we are on D-line. But man, he had a great motor on him, and he was talking back to the Weber State players too. And I didn't necessarily expect to see that also.
And then I was going to see, Taylor, what you thought of the linebacker play. That was another unit that we had previewed and had a lot of confidence in, but it was great to see it in action. Trent Hendrick does have a game that we expect to see from a player of his magnitude, but this unit in general really rallied around him. He did have 7 tackles, 3 solo, and 1 tackle for a loss. It did see that, like, this unit from a run defense perspective, they were very aggressive, the linebackers, and kind of as advertised, as we'd held Weber State to less than 100 yards going into the fourth quarter. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, so when you consider that a third of their yards came in the fourth quarter, and I don't want to write off as garbage time. I mean, no coach is going to say anything's garbage time. We're out there to play the game and play it to the fullest ability. But when you consider the majority of those yards came at a point where the game was just over, I also think even looking at the score, I mean, those 10 points, one's a 51-yard field goal. I mean, how many times is that going to happen? And the other, their touchdown was a give me that was handed to him right at the front. So, I mean, that 10 points is a 10 points that was not made up of drives and consistency. And so the defense just played lights out. And we talked about this a little bit with last episode, that there is a point where at some point it's hard to really go all out when you know the opponent is that beatable. We talked last week that this was not the Weber State team that we saw the last few years. This was, a Weber State that has struggled the last few years. And I think one other thing I noticed from the end zone suites is the size differential. I mean, you could tell they were a smaller, not as athletic team. So I think it's impressive. I saw Shane from the DNR tweet out that was the fewest yards that we've held an opponent to since Middle Tennessee State, our first ever FBS game. So when I look at the defense, it's hard to read them from this game because the opponent is, arguably the worst competition that we're going to see on the schedule this year. But it's hard to be critical for the game they played yesterday and the stats they put up.
Yeah. So can I ask Michael real quick? I want to just ask you a question because there are some talking points that are out there online, and I think we should be willing to address it. Is that this wasn't a perfect performance from the defense? One question that's out there, people saying, "Well, we didn't have any sacks," and now people wondering what we could see from the defensive line. I did want to ask your perspective on that because again, one of the things we expect to see from this unit is a defense that blitzes a lot, and we didn't see a lot of blitzing from this defense yesterday. But also, it kind of was a defense that accounted for what Weber State was doing on offense, and we really seemed to just buy in all on stopping the run, and it seemed to pay off for us in a big way.
Well, you look back at what Weber State likes to do, right? They're a tempo offense predicated on the zone option, right? If you look at anything they've done in the last 2 years, it's all on running the ball. And I think this staff looked at it and go, okay, if we can stop the run game on first down, they're not going to throw on our players. And I think it was a relatively vanilla offense. I thought we could dominate up front. And I think outside of like quarterback scrambles, we held them to literally zero rushing yards from the running backs until maybe through the third quarter going into the fourth. I saw that was an interesting stat. I just don't think we had to. But I believe some of the nuances are there. We blitzed from the corners a couple times on the short side if you watch some of those plays happen. But I think we were just very dominant up front, and I don't think they had a lot of confidence that quarterback was going to complete many passes. But knowing Coach Hitch and knowing his background, I think we're going to see that change. And also an important thing to note, everyone remembers the Charlotte game last year, those line changes and how many players we were switching out, I think we're kind of feeling out some of the personnel. We did that this game too. And I think as the weeks go by, you'll probably see some of the defensive personnel solidify and who's in the rotation and whatnot. But I wouldn't worry too much. Like, yes, would I have liked to see some more pressure, right, from particularly the defensive ends? Absolutely. But I think that looking at how they played and just standing them up, they figured if we stopped the run, they were going to have a long day against us. That's for sure.
Yeah. I did, because we want to get to our kind of off-topic conversation in a second. Anything you guys want to mention about the special teams unit from yesterday? Kind of a mixed bag. We do have a blocked punt. Chase Regan, again, continues to make his presence felt on special teams. We do get a field goal. We had 2 kickoffs that one could have went for a long way. We have a holding penalty. Then we obviously have Wayne Knight's touchdown that's called back. We do also have a blocked field goal yesterday, and then a fake punt that is unsuccessful. But there's some things to like, some things to be excited about, but some things that obviously I think if Drew Cannon and co were sitting down today, they're probably looking at at least reevaluating and possibly just trying to get some coaching points on, because it wasn't a perfect game from any perspective from that side of the ball.
I'll say from the special team side, both the good and the bad. The bad is the execution was sloppy, and there's no way to cover it up. Whether that was not respecting your opponent, whether that was, they're just not being disciplined in your positions. I'm not on the coach's side, so I don't know the reason. I'm not going to pretend to know the reasons, but the special teams, not only did it look sloppy, but if it looks sloppy against Weber State, it's really going to kill you in some of these close games that we're going to have on our schedule coming up. The good side of it is you remove some of those penalties that were on those 2 runbacks. I think you see the explosiveness that this team has and the potential they have to score on special teams. I do kind of question what was going on with the fake punt, but then there's also part of me that says, is that not an opportunity to try it in this game and to kind of see where you need to fill those holes and where you need to make corrections so that later on in the season, or flat out, was this the type of fake punt that they're never going to run that fake punt again, but it was kind of purposeful to put it on tape. So I think our coaching staff is playing a lot of 4D chess, but I do think we call it like we see it. It was a bit sloppy yesterday, and it needs to improve, or it's going to sting us later on in the season.
I will say, Coach Chesney came out and said, though, the one thing he did like was obviously Wayne Knight's willingness to run full speed directly at guys that are running full speed at him. And he said you can't coach that. It's just kind of innate. And that gives you the potential to really break some of these long kickoff returns. And that's exciting for the possibility of having a game-breaking moment when you need it most from a guy like him. That's something that stands out as a real thing to be excited for, because those runs are only, if you could clean up the penalties, which you hope to see from week 1 to week 2 and going forward, we could have a pretty special opportunity there.
Yeah, and I also add that too, is like I'm kind of Taylor's perspective here. Silver lining, right? Did we put that punt run in there to kind of throw it on tape? I also argue if Patrick Ray had cut that ball inside, that could have been a 40-yard run versus running straight to the sideline. I look at the field goal. It looks like 2 of our protectors fell down, or one of them fell down, which allowed a hand to get in there. But at the same time too, like, stuff happens. We need to execute at the same time. I think on a good perspective, the kickoff coverage was pretty phenomenal. Obviously, it's Weber State, but watching the hustle and the players that were on kickoff, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Trayshawn Dye was on kickoff. Kai Holmes, who's been with the program for 4 years, was on kickoff. Tyler Brown was there. Io Adei was on kickoff. So you're looking at, we talked about this all offseason, the depth showing up. Like, we had high quality players on special teams on kickoff and kick return, which I think will pay dividends for us down the road. But they were running around with their head chopped off. I'm gonna do a shout out to number 56, Drew Spinagati, who's one of the Holy Cross linebackers that came to us, led the team in tackles last year and was impressive on kickoff. Also had that tackle for loss right in the goal line, where he looked phenomenal in the way he attacked that number. So you looked at last year where maybe, you look at Ball State, where we were throwing in maybe some subs. The level of player that is now coming in the second and third string, I think, has been elevated significantly from the offseason.
Awesome. Guys, anything else you want to touch on before we move to our halftime segment?
Yeah, I just want to address some of the criticism that I think is valid that you've seen online. I mean, I think there is a concern for the statistics of the passing game yesterday. I think there's a lot of good reason. I think we touched on that. If you can run 313 yards on the team, there's never a reason to put the ball in the air. But having said that, there were about half of our games last year we passed for under 200 yards. Once again, yesterday against an inferior opponent, we passed for under 200 yards. What I would like to see is what role is the passing game going to play later this year? I don't think this is an offense that is designed to typically go 300 plus on passing, but I do think you need to consistently have the 200 yard plus 250 to continue to have the effective run game that we have. The other criticism, obviously, we touched on special teams. I think you mentioned the lack of sacks on defense. I'm just going to kind of summarize it and put a bow on this package. Is I think if you're looking at the glass half full, the way we performed in the first half was a team that I think is capable of doing everything they're expected to do the rest of the season. If you look at some of the second half, the lack of execution, some of the lack of discipline, kind of the sloppy play, I just don't believe with a short week against arguably one of the hardest opponents on your schedule that you are throwing out everything out there that you intend to use, not only against Louisville, but you have a Liberty team coming up after that that's going to be watching this tape. So I don't see any reason for a 4-8 previous last year FCS team for you to put a bunch of stuff on tape, especially if you can run for 313 and especially if you can run it down their throat. We did beat the spread. I know 35 points. I know everyone thinks if we play an FCS team, we need to win by 50 plus, but we beat the spread. We did a lot better than some of our other G5 opponents against their FCS teams. So I would say glass half full. This team's looking good. Glass half empty, to be determined. Not, you can't really put a grade on it yet because I don't think that we saw everything that this team will be this year.
And you add in the old adage, right? Like teams improve the most from game one to game two. And I think when you look at, especially the third quarter, you look at AB3 out throwing Smoke Collins by like 3 inches. That would have been a 45-yard touchdown. You look at that play, you had the Jalen Sanchez on fourth down that was maybe 6 inches over his head. That would have been a 20-yard throw. So that's 60 yards right there that were off the play just by inches. But the good news there is the play was there. And if you look at the game plan, a lot of what we ran were bubble screens, mesh concepts that allowed just our players to go out in space. Let's talk about that throw also in the second quarter that unfortunately I think it was DeGennaro that dropped it right on the sideline. But that was a beautiful ball that you make that play in week 3 and week 4. Right. So you've seen it on the field. You've seen it in live, as Coach Chesney said, live fire. Now let's start connecting in it. Right. And these are also new receivers. I think it'll get better in time.
Well, and just to point out last year, game 2, Gardner Webb, Alonzo Barnett goes out and throws for 135 yards. Everyone in the comment section, this guy's not a quarterback. He doesn't have it. That's why Signetti benched him. Next week, ACC opponent, he throws for 388. So my point is I don't think there's enough to even really make a correct assertion on what this team can be and what the offensive can be. I think we're going to see a lot of new stuff at Louisville, and I still think there's going to be stuff held back because you have a Liberty game right after that. And, really until you get into conference play do you really want to show your full hand? So I liked what I saw yesterday. I know all the criticism online. I want to see a lot more, but there really wasn't a whole lot. There wasn't a lot of reason to play that yesterday.
Yeah, and there's value in not only a 35-point win, it's obviously incredibly valuable, but having things to correct, things to go in the tape and say, hey, if we do this, this, and this, where could we be? And obviously that's probably the focus of today and tomorrow and the rest of the week before we head out to Louisville. Did want to get to our halftime segment. We're going to briefly touch on the Hall of Fame class that was inducted. Want to mention all the names: Kirby Burkhalter from Hannes Dottier, I hope I pronounced that right, Kimberly Solari Brown, Charlie King, Darren McClinton, Kevin Munson, and somebody I know, Michael, who you have been very fond of for many years, Stefan Robertson, gets into the Hall of Fame. I know you want to touch on Stefan and his impact on the field for JMU, but also you had a chance to get to know him a little bit off the field as well, and that's always special.
Yeah, I was going to say, Stefan, talk about a great representative of JMU athletics. Yes, him and I were not only classmates, we spent Maymester together. I got to know him and some of his teammates, but what an amazing linebacker. I always say he's my GOAT when it comes to JMU linebackers. 4-year starter, 445 tackles, 9 sacks. You're talking about a CAA Defensive Player of the Year. Buck Buchanan finalist, Dudley Award winner for the top Division I player in Virginia, 2-time All-American. You might remember him as a true freshman versus that school down the road. I think 21-16 victory. He forced that fumble to end that game completely for us. And you're looking at just someone that has been such a stalwart for that version of JMU when you needed a good defense. Mickey always said the only reason why he never won a Buck Buchanan trophy is it becomes a stats game. And when you're the best player on a good defense, you don't have to make all the tackles. But if you had played for, I don't know, Montana State or whoever was winning at the time when they were having 200 tackles a season, Stephon would have been up there. You always called him the best defender in FCS at the time. And I think he would have been a best defender at any level. So congratulations to Stephon. Well-deserved. Also a Northern Virginia kid, so representing the state of Virginia as well.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again to everyone who was inducted. Another topic we want to mention today is an article from Shane Mettlen today. There's been a lot, or this week, there was a lot of discussion really over the last couple of months on stadium expansion and what the future could look like. Well, Shane had a great piece where he talked about the role that our new president is going to play in that, talking about a number of different things, integrating athletics with academic departments, using the stadium for more than just football games, trying to make sure that we're being creative in terms of revenue generation for that possibility of hotels and restaurants and creating kind of like an entertainment district. Some conversations with the city of Harrisonburg about what role they could play. Taylor, I know you had a chance to kind of digest that article. Just kind of your initial thoughts on, again, this continued conversation about imagining a future of not only Bridgeforth Stadium, but a future of the entire landscape around it. This is exciting stuff and really different than maybe your traditional stadium expansion conversation, which just talks about seating or maybe suites and stuff. This is really a full comprehensive vision of what the experience could be like, with some eyes towards what has happened in professional sports and the way that they build those venues.
Yeah, I think what our new president and both our athletic director and Matt Roan see is that we're kind of at a turning point in college athletics, and that there's going to be a lot of shakeup in the near future, and that there's going to be the haves and the have-nots. And I think putting together a comprehensive strategic plan of how these facilities can generate revenue, how we can continue to get people into these facilities, even if not for an athletic event. I think there was even a Virginia Tech PowerPoint presentation that went viral a couple of weeks ago where Whit Babcock down at Virginia Tech was just talking about all the things that even Virginia Tech needs to do to continue to put itself in a position to be successful down the road. I think when it comes to all of the new innovative things that you've seen from our athletic department, whether you saw some of the renderings of a potential Bridgeforth Stadium expansion, you see those mid field seats on the Godwin side, you saw the suites on the end of the end zone down under the scoreboard. I think what you see JMU doing is they're not afraid to take risk. They're not afraid to kind of put themselves out there in a position that may make them uncomfortable because they haven't been there in the past. I think JMU is positioning itself to be one of those programs, not just from football, but an athletic program and university that is going to elevate itself and put itself in a position for what this new era of college athletics is going to look like down the road. One which I can say, again, going back to that Virginia Tech presentation went viral, no one really knows what it looks like. So having a president and an athletic director that are so vocal, so transparent and upfront about we are trying to maximize the ROI on this athletic program and the brand that we currently have nationally. I've mentioned this before, us in Boise State, we're the only two only two football programs that haven't had a losing season in 23 years. And after this game, Boise played against South Florida. I don't want to speak too early. Is there an opportunity for JMU to claim king to that title? But, we have a brand nationally where our players are getting recognized in these preseason awards. We're getting top 25 votes for the fourth year in a row, 4 for 4 in FBS. The JMU brand is known nationally, and we're trying to capitalize on those opportunities while they exist and and we're going to need the JMU fan base to come alongside and invest in these opportunities that the president and Matt Roan are going to put forth.
Yeah, I just thought there was some interesting elements there talking about looking at the Green Bay Packers experience, what they've built in Titletown around. He mentioning Iowa State and what they've done to connect kind of the football and basketball venues together. I thought it was interesting of note, though, also encouraging people to stay longer after games. So could you have restaurants outside the stadium? They mentioned maybe you get some wings and a some popcorn chicken or something. You hang out for a little while, watch some other games, but you're doing it in a venue that's on campus. That's obviously going to change the look and feel of that area, reimagining that space, but the revenue potential that could be generated for not just game days. That was the point that I think has to continue to be emphasized, is, are you bringing in concerts? They mentioned youth sports as an opportunity to possibly be something that's centered around these facilities. And it's always good to see that both of these gentlemen, when you're talking about Roan and Schmidt, have experience doing this before in other venues. The fundraising that comes into that, raising large sums of money and being creative to do so. And that should be very exciting to any fan of JMU. And for me, the only thing I would just encourage is an open mind, because some of these plans are going to likely be very different than anything we've seen in the past. But if you look especially at professional sports, anybody who's a Commanders fan has seen what's going into building that arena. The Washington Capitals, the discussion about trying to get an arena in Northern Virginia. Richmond's had their problems. These types of venues, building them is complicated. There's a lot of nuance involved, and the funding mechanisms have to be unique. And the more opportunities you can get for fans to experience these, the more opportunities, not only for revenue, but the easier it is to justify the cost. And I think that's a big part of these discussions.
Yeah, and to add to that as well, we had Matt Roan on here, 2 weeks ago, and he used the word aligned, which I'm super excited about, because in an age of rev share, we need to find ways to your point, be very strategic. And I look at, being able to use the space year round. Also, one of the things in the article they talked about is President Schmidt working with the city of Harrisonburg, working with the county as well, because at Eau Claire, his prior stop, he had worked with the local government, right, in terms of building those facilities to not just support the school, but for the community, which I'm really excited about, right? We want to build this brand of the Valleys team, getting the community involved. And to your point, John, imagine having a facility where we have a bar attached to it, where that revenue is being generated in May, June, July, when it's beautiful in the Valley and people are coming to that establishment specifically for that, which I think is, I think it's creative, it's different. And, Taylor, you were there, you worked for JMU. I think the tone is shifted, right, in terms of what they're open doing and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I do want to elevate the previous administration. I think the previous administration was incredibly progressive and forward thinking. When you look at where they started out, I remember my freshman year in 2003. You got your tickets from a purple and gold painted plywood phone booth looking thing outside of the chain link fence. Literally. And so when you look at that and see how quickly we went from that to the expanded Bridgeforth Stadium and the Plecker Center and the video board, and I mean, we had a full-time person that was just responsible for the video boarding, operating that thing year round. That was incredibly progressive and forward thinking. And then, you're standing on the shoulders of giants. For Matt Roan to come in, again, he brings some youth to the position. He's kind of connected to both mainstream pop culture, what's going to drive the student body and the average JMU fan to want to come to these games. You're already seeing it in little doses right now. But again, Matt Roan and his administration, they've only been here a year. And so I'm excited in what I've seen in that little time. When John and Michael talk about what's kind of coming down the pipeline in terms of an imagination and strategic planning, it's exciting. And JMU fans should be investing into this program at a level higher than they ever have, because we have the people that are willing to take the risk to make us a program that we maybe joked about 10 years ago. Oh, it'd be great one day if we could be this. We're there, folks. And the opportunity is right in front of us.
And I was talking to someone that was sharing that, they were, I think they were donating maybe like $150 a year to the athletic program, which is fantastic. But imagine if everyone that spent that $150, right, spent $200 instead, and that's across thousands of people. That's the other side of Bridgeforth, right? And just like that. So it's just those little incremental pieces of growth makes a tremendous impact when you look at the outcome.
Yeah,
I was going to put really quick. Okay, you go ahead. No, I was just to put a bow on it, that you're used to athletic directors and presidents in their first year going on listening tours. And we're going to listen a lot, or we're going to go around, and we're going to hold a bunch of town hall meetings, and that's going to lead to a strategic plan. Yeah, they're doing the strategic planning, but they're also not waiting for 3 to 5 years down the road. That's what we see with the field suites. That's what we see with the enhancements to the older side of the stadium with those chairback seats now. And it's just, while we're planning the next big thing, we're going to do things now that are not only going to get fans to new types of experiences, but are going to generate the revenue needed to be able to start to build the foundation of support you're going to need for the bigger projects. And that, to me, has been the difference, is that we're not waiting around, and that's exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, talking to Brad Burgess over in the ticket office, I mean, I think he said just the small change that they made with the end zone suites and those mid seats on the Godwin side. I mean, you're looking at about potentially $500,000 of additional revenue. And again, that was a small change. That's tearing down some hedges, putting in some bar top tables and some mesh seats. And you're looking at significant revenue generation from that small change. I think going back to the listening tour thing, you have an AD who's barely been here over a year. You have a president that hasn't even been here a year yet. And you're already seeing renderings of stadium expansion and openly talking about it in news articles. And it's not just football. If you get these guys for a second, they will talk about a holistic approach to this entire athletic program. I mean, they are looking to elevate JMU nationally because, as we always say, the athletic program is the front porch of your university, and we are putting out a very beautiful front porch that's going to elevate every other aspect of this university.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to transition because there's another game this week on Friday. Louisville, it's crazy. It's just amazing how fast it goes when we're back in the swing of things. We got to get our momentum up. We got to get our stamina up as well. Taylor, we're going to have you come back at the end of the show. We're going to bring on Afton, who is a lifelong, I feel like, Louisville at least observer. I don't want to say fan. I'll let you define what your relationship is with Louisville. We got Taylor and his backstory with ODU. Now we've got you with Louisville. Afton, set the stage for this game. Our ACC opponent, we're familiar with them. Some of us made the trip out last time. It was a great game day experience. Afton, set the stage.
Yeah, so Louisville's been my second love ever since 2015. Teddy Bridgewater is my favorite quarterback. So I just had to put that out there. I know I made it very clear to everybody on Sound Off, but for all the fans, that's why I like him, Teddy Bridgewater. But so this is Miller Moss's first year with Louisville, transferred from USC. He's an efficient quarterback, but he has interception issues. So we can take advantage of that. That is a weakness, one of the few weaknesses. And Isaac Brown, one of the best running backs in college football. And they have one of the best running back rooms with Duke Watson right behind them. Isaac Brown only had 6 carries yesterday, but still had 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. Super impressive. So their backfield is just loaded. Duke Watson, though, he's supposed to be one of the best backup running backs in college football, but he only had 2 yards yesterday. So we can't get caught sleeping thinking that's going to happen again. But I would say the whole defense is new. There's a new defense. So maybe while they're still getting their feet wet during the season, we can take advantage of that. But the hard thing is containing the offense. Containing the running game is going to be a big thing. And interestingly, fun fact, Miller Moss's first start ever was against Louisville. He threw for 6 touchdowns in the Holiday Bowl.
Well, talk about that a little bit, Afton, because I think Miller Moss, for college football fans, I believe he was previously at USC, if I remember correctly.
He was.
Throws for 223 yards, but also throws 2 picks, I believe, yesterday. So tell us, I don't know if you watched the game, but like, we know about the running backs. I think it's national news around Louisville and their stable of backs, but what does the quarterback bring to the table there?
Yeah, so I think he has a big arm, so I think they didn't really use it yesterday, in my opinion. They didn't really throw too deep. But what I'd say is he threw last year 18 touchdowns, but he threw 9 interceptions. So 18 touchdowns is pretty good. It's not super good. 9 interceptions is not good. So he's going to have to clean that up. We're going to have to look out for the deep shots because he's proven that in the past couple of years. He has a really big arm. And he's, even with his interceptions, interestingly, he's a really efficient quarterback. So other than his interceptions, he doesn't throw a lot of incompletions. So I think the biggest thing is if we put pressure on him, if we get to the quarterback, that'll cause disruption, cause interceptions. We had 3 yesterday. And I think that's going to be our key to win. We just have to pressure him.
I think what's interesting, too, is this is probably a name for a lot of JMU fans, is Colin Lacey, who formerly was at South Alabama. I think he ran for a 93-yard punt return, finally healthy, right? So do you think, when you look at the receiving core, who are some names that stand out? And How would you describe their offense? I think their head coach is who? Is it Brian Brom, if I remember correctly?
Yes, Jeff Brom. He's a
Brom, yeah.
great offensive mind. Yeah, so Colin Lacey, he's a really fast receiver. He had 125 yards just on punt returns yesterday. That's it. So I think he's going to be someone they have to contain. Their wide receiver room actually isn't super experienced. They have a ton of like people that have stayed. It's not a ton of new bodies, but none of them are really people that are new. They're all undefined. They all have to prove themselves, but they're all people that stayed. So I guess we don't know exactly what they're going to bring to the table, but Jeff Brom and the offensive coordinator know what's going to happen because they've all been there, all the receivers, but they haven't shown a ton of stuff in the past couple of years because they've been backups.
Tell us more about the defense. You mentioned this new defense, I believe new personnel. I noticed they also had 12 penalties for 106 yards. I don't know if that was mostly on the offensive side or defensive side. What can this JMU offense expect next Friday?
So I'd say the DB room, they also have a South Alabama transfer in the DB room. The DB room is completely new. There's not one person that you'll see get playing time that was with Louisville last year. But in the linebacker room, they have TJ Quinn. I think that's a really good linebacker. You'll hear his name a lot next Friday. And then the defensive line, big thing they focused on was to get size. They have 3 defensive ends, 6'5" or plus, 6'5" or up. So
Wow.
we are going to need big bodies in there. We're going to need to be rotating like we did yesterday. Offensive line is going to need to stay healthy, going to need to stay fresh because it's going to be really hard to stop that defensive line to get to Alonzo or Matthew Sluka. So I'd say their defense is, well, it's fairly new, is big. It's a big bodied, it's an ACC school, right? It's a big body defense. And I'd say the linebackers and the defensive line are just really strong players that we have to look out for.
Can we expect like a 3-man front, 4-man front? Like do they run maybe more 5-man? Like what's that look like up front for them?
Yeah, so what I saw yesterday was it was mostly 4-man, but they do try to stop the run a lot. They held Eastern Kentucky to I think under 100 yards on the ground. I think. Don't quote me on that. But I saw a couple 5-man fronts with a nose guard. They do have a big nose guard, but I think from yesterday at least he didn't play a ton. But on big third downs, third and shorts, fourth and shorts, we'll definitely see him, especially with our offense. If we see Sluka in third and shorts, fourth and shorts, you'll definitely see a 5-man front. But I'd say usually it would be a 4-man front.
Yeah, that's good to know, right? Because I think one of the important factors is they're at least playing a front or an alignment they're used to seeing. I always thought the last couple of years with like Marshall, when they had Charles Huff, they would come out in more of a 3-3 stack, which I think gave us a little bit of trouble. And you add that plus elite personnel, I always get a little bit worried, right? So I think that's a good sign. And we're older, right, and more mature in offense, which is really exciting. I think defensively for us, I think it's obvious we've got our hands full, right? You mentioned their running backs. Talk a little bit about their O-line. What can we expect up front?
So the O-line, what I noticed is you asked about the penalties, 12 penalties. A lot of them were holding calls. So I think that you can get an Xavier Holmes breakout game, a Michael McMullen breakout game, and that's exactly why I think that pressuring Miller Moss is going to be the key to success. Because as the offensive line, obviously it's an ACC school, they're going to be big. They're going to be 6'5 plus, they're going to be 6'6 plus. But with all their penalties, with all the mistakes they made yesterday on Friday night, if we can just pressure Miller Moss, get to him, it'll rattle those offensive linemen and it'll create even more havoc, just like yesterday. 12 penalties in total. Obviously not all on the offensive line, but I think that'll create more penalties, more havoc, get a little bit more rattled. That'll be big for us.
Yeah, I think when you look at Coach Hitch's background and I'm looking at like prior times where we've upplayed higher level talent, I look back at like 2017 when we played ECU. They had a free flowing offense, and I think we were bringing 7 every time. And it was sort of like we're either going to hit the quarterback or we're gonna cause a PI in the back end, right? And we give them 15 yards, worst case scenario.
Yeah,
maybe it's that situation. I don't know. Do they run more spread? Are they more of like a I formation team? What do you?
Yeah, that's the hard thing about them. They're pretty much a spread offense, because that gets the running back in space. And a lot of people might be like, well, we contained as much as possible Marion Hampton last year. and you could argue he's as much as you can.
Yeah.
But like the difference is these are two completely different running backs. Ryan Hampton's going to run through you. Isaac Brown's going to run from you. He's going to run as fast as he can. He's a super fast, he's a super elusive running back. And I think the biggest thing for him is he was a freshman last year. He's a true freshman. So he's a true sophomore, and that's going to be a big jump. So I think their spread offense is really hard to contain because they have a good combo of size and speed at receivers, and also a really good combo of speed and youth in the running back room. And that spread offense creates space for Isaac Brown and Duke Watson.
Yeah, I think, you go back to like even the 2023 defense where it was sort of a go big or go home, get the tackle for loss, get the sack, hit people in the backfield. And hell, if you give up a long play, we're going to take that risk. If anything, we'll just get a PI out of it. I think, do we send more than they can block? That could be an interesting sort of game of cat and mouse next Friday.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just touched on it. I think we have to send more than what they block and rely on the DBs. Because I said it last week and the week before, the DB room is my favorite room for us this season. It's my favorite room. The DBs, the cornerbacks, the safeties, and you saw 3 interceptions yesterday. That's really good. So I think if you are Coach Chesney, rely on the DBs. Send the house. If I'm Coach Chesney, I'm sending the house, and you have to rely on your skills in the secondary. You have to.
There you go.
You heard it here first.
In the house. After and Michael, I want to come back to the discussion for the thing that I was so impressed with of the last trip to Louisville was just the experience around the game. And we've talked over the last season of JMU Sound Off of the lessons learned from the Louisville trip with their DJ, with their hype man on the sidelines, and the impact that had in keeping their crowd engaged and energetic, and just the full fan experience from the tailgate scene outside of the stadium was electric. Their concessions were great. And I know JMU took a lot from that experience to bring back to Bridgeforth Stadium. For fans who haven't made the trip, Michael, I know you were out there last time, so were you, Afton. What can fans expect to see when they make their way to Kentucky? The whole experience is great from the Bourbon Trail. If you go out there early, just a lot to do to make it a worthwhile investment of your time and money if you make the trip.
It's a professional atmosphere. I think that the stadium is super impressive. It felt like I was going into an NFL game because of the quality of the what do you call it? The concessions, the food options, etc. I think it was 50% off alcoholic drinks, like 30 minutes
early. Yeah. That was Steve Brown's favorite thing about it.
That was awesome. I was like, shoot, why don't we do that? Right? We're telling people to come in an hour before, 25%, whatever it was. And you said it best. I think a lot of the creativity we're seeing now, the birth of all that was it 2023? Yeah, 2022. It was us coming from the Louisville game being like, oh my gosh, stadium DJ, concession options, creative ways to get the fans involved, right? I think that was all pretty fantastic. But it is a top of the line stadium and experience. It's a tall stadium. You'll notice that very quickly. Yeah. And it's a loud arena as well. So I think that's something we'll have to prepare for.
Yeah, but also the venue around it. The city of Louisville has a ton to offer for fans.
That's just to be said, right? Yeah, Louisville is fantastic.
Yeah, not just bourbon, plenty of great restaurants as well. If you're going to make the trip, you're going to enjoy the experience. Afton, what did you take from your journey to Louisville? What are you excited to get a chance to experience again?
Yeah,
no bourbon for you, by the way. I know that that's still frowned upon. I just had to say that.
I'll go straight to the football standpoint of things here. Michael touched on it. It's super professional. Everybody, all 60,000 people, they're all bought in. And then I want to say it was called the Alley, but right outside the stadium, there's a big tailgating scene, huge. Away fans, home fans, TVs everywhere. It was super cool. It's right outside the stadium. And the stadium is massive. It is very professional feel, very NFL feel. And, the fans are super bought in. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be really exciting. I hope JMU Nation travels well, so it's not 60,000 Louisville fans, but.
Well, and to give a couple of shout outs, logistics, there is a Duke Club event that is occurring. So there are still tickets available for that experience. Last time I think all of us went to the Duke Club event last time, and they gave a special gift away as a part of it. So a lot that goes into making the full couple of day experience around the game enjoyable for fans. So check out jmusports.com. Check out the Duke Club's event calendar to get your tickets for that. Afton, just want to say, great job on the breakdown. This is why we call in the young arm from the bullpen. Your brain's working a little faster today on short rest than these old men you do this podcast with. Any final thoughts from you, Afton, just on either anything you saw in Louisville or any thoughts on yesterday's game against Weber State?
I'm so good to be back. So good to be back. And one fun fact, there was only one player on this team that played Weber State in 2021, and that one player got his first career interception yesterday, Kai Holmes. So shout out Kai Holmes.
Shout out to the safety unit in general. If you didn't get a chance to see the post game, Jacob Thomas super excited about that room and the impact they had. Wanted to make it known that they knew this was going to happen. They talked about it in their team dinner before, and then they went out and executed. So great stuff all around. Great stuff to you, After. When are you making the trip out there? You're there Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday night.
All right. Well, I'll see you and your dad. I know he's got international travels in advance of this too. So he's jet setting all over town to get there to Louisville. That's dedication. But thank you, Afton, to your contributions. Anything planned for social this week in the lead up? You got any player spotlights or stuff that people can look forward to?
I mean, Wayne Knight had a big game, so we might have to highlight his performance. So did Mikey Scott. Michael and Taylor touched on that, so might not have to do Michael Scott because they already gave him his props. But Wayne Knight might have to do a player spotlight for him.
All right.
Yeah.
You have to stay tuned. It's called a teaser. So there's
Exactly.
a number of possibilities that we can see. Appreciate your work as always. Follow our social accounts to see what Afton does. Does a tremendous job keeping everyone engaged, creating great content. Afton, we'll see you in Louisville.
Thank you. Go Dukes.
All right, brother. And now we're going to bring back in Taylor Atkins. I hope you took a nap like I did for the few minutes where my contact lens fell out. Lots of ways you got to keep us going.
John, I think we were all taking naps about 45 minutes ago. So
I know.
For an hour before this.
I wish I could say I did. I was stupid enough to go to a workout class this morning. I'm regretting every decision I made so far. Want to look ahead just briefly. A lot of momentum coming out of yesterday's game that can be the catalyst for big things to come for this team, as well as just building confidence in what we're capable of. I thought from every one of the players I saw in the post-game comments yesterday, that confidence was impossible to overlook. Where are you guys' heads at going into this matchup and what this could mean if we are able to put forth another one of those performances where we go, wow, this team is ready for these ACC games. If you look at Coach Chesney, his experience in these games and his track record is quite good. Even if he's not always getting the win, his teams are always at the end of the game, which is a far cry from what we used to see, in days gone of JMU. There's always the conversation of, well, we don't really play to win these games. This coaching staff certainly does.
I'm trying not to. I mean, I don't think I'm looking at this with purple lenses. Maybe I am, but there wasn't anything that I said, man, that guy's he's just not tall enough. He's not fast enough. He's not big enough. He's not strong enough. The only issues I had yesterday were with some discipline and execution things, which not only can they be cleaned up. I mean, I'm judging based on what I've seen this coaching staff do in the past. I think they will get cleaned up. I also think, again, the opponent had a lot to do with it. So that's where I was kind of mentioned earlier. I said, I don't think it's really fair to really grade this team where they are with what we saw, because I think we saw the cliche term, the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much this team has yet to unveil. So I'm feeling confident going into next week. I am curious. I know one talking point online the last 24 hours has been, what is the QB situation? Is it a 90-10? Is it a 80-20? Is it 100-1? And again, I don't think yesterday's a good measure of that either. I have zero inside knowledge to that. I just don't think we have any idea how they're going to use this personnel. But what I am excited about is I don't know how many teams ever have 3 different quarterbacks score a rushing touchdown in the game. I think we had, there were 5 guys that had over 5 yards rushing or averaging 5 yards per rush. So again, I just don't think we've shown our hand yet. So I'm cautiously optimistic. That is the purple lens going in. I did see while we were on here, the line just came out 15.5 underdogs. I think that's a little high. I'm a JMU fan, but I also think 15.5 with the expectations Louisville has coming into the season. It's at their place, and the way they perform week 1, I think there's a level of respect being given to the Dukes there. So I'm excited for a Friday night matchup on national TV.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Taylor. I think also, Louisville's expected to have a huge year and be in the top of the ACC, which, as you saw, Florida State beat Alabama this past weekend. The top of the ACC is up for grabs at this point. John, you had mentioned the players have more confidence. I kind of want to reframe that and mention, I feel like the players have more certainty. I think there's more certainty around where they need to be, more certainty around who the staff is, what the staff expects from them, and you could see them flying around. And yeah, we had some drop passes, we had some sloppy execution here and there, but I think there was just felt more that people knew where they're supposed to be and what their job was supposed to be at every given time. And I think that also happens with special teams too. To your point, Coach Chesney, I think no surprise, if you look at his background, he kind of treats these games like Super Bowls, right? Like everything is up for the table. If you notice from the Weber State game, we did not have a 2-point conversion. We didn't go for anything. Maybe we have some onside kicks here and there. We also have like 4 kickers on this team. Maybe we pull out 2 kickers. I think it was a Bill Belichick thing, right? Like who's going to kick the ball? I don't know.
Point, is this the game you see multiple quarterbacks in the field at the same time? Possibly.
Who knows?
And the beauty of it is, if we don't know, Louisville doesn't know. And that's no small feat. That they're going to have to game plan for a number of different things, because they even have to game plan for a guy like J.C. Evans now, who did not look like a slouch on that running touchdown. There is a reason J.C. Evans is in that moment doing what he's doing, as opposed to just handing it off. This is very, very deliberate coaching from the staff.
And you look at how we played Sluka. It's not like we ran the ball every time. We were throwing a deep ball. We threw some like two back sets out there, which we threw out of. So we're kind of throwing off tendencies, right? That's usually how defensive coordinators chart these things. I mean, again, right, it's a cat and mouse game at the end of the day. Does one position or whatever change the game for Louisville? No, but I think the opportunity is there. And like we said, Chesney is known for pulling things out of the hat for these types of games.
Well, I will say though, on the Sluka thing though, because how many times have we all watched college football where they bring in the running quarterback and you see it all across, and you just are like, all right, here comes a draw, or here comes a handoff, and it seems like it's always that, and fans like us are sitting in the stands. Well, one time he's going to pull it, and it never really happens, or sometimes it does, but it's more just, all right, well, he came in to do what he's supposed to do. With Sluka, like he's a run first quarterback, but he is a quarterback who has done the full game and has thrown and he threw touchdowns yesterday, threw a pick. They were not afraid to air it out with him. And that, I think, at least is going to have to keep defenses honest with the skill set we have at wide receiver. Last year's wide receiver group, they probably said, fine, all right, hey, beat us, do your thing. This is a different beast that they're going to have to game plan for. And I don't think that is a small point when we look at what this game could be and how it's going to play out.
Well, and that's one of those things for anyone that's ever gone to Cookout, all right? And they got those 40 milkshake flavors, but they say the mathematical, statistical probability of how many milkshakes you can make from that 40. I mean, that's kind of the way I see this, all right? We got these 2, arguably 3 quarterbacks that can throw and run. You have a backfield that has, again, there were 3 running backs yesterday that had over 5 yards average per carry. So it's not like you can say, all right, well, if Sluka's in and it's RB3 or RB2, he's going to run it. It's like, no, there's 3 or 4 guys he can hand off to that can hurt you just as bad as he can. But like you also mentioned, we have tape of Sluka being in the backfield and throwing 2 deep balls, right? So it's like you can't press up. You can't sell out on the run. There's just so many different ways that they can play this. And if I'm Louisville, and those Louisville coaches, they know that JMU didn't show their full hand. So for me, it would kind of, I mean, I'm not a coach. It would give me anxiety to see, like, daggone, how do we come up with the statistical probability of everything? They got 40 milkshakes on that team, and we don't know which one they're going to put out. That's basically what I'm thinking.
Well, I'll expand on that, Taylor. I mean, you're talking about the quarterbacks. We talked a lot about Mikey Scott this week. Isaiah Alston had a touchdown. We talked about Wayne Knight. DeGennaro had a couple opportunities to shine, right? And he's just coming back after an injury. Maybe we have a DeGennaro and Jalen Sanchez game, right? Maybe they're the 2 breakout games. We didn't play Jordan Fuller yesterday. I don't know if anyone noticed that. Jordan Fuller never came in, and he's more of a power back. So based on the type of game we're having, maybe we're utilizing him some more. Josh Pfeiffer didn't play, right? So Logan Kyle and Lakota Dupree had some really good games out there. So I'll take your analogy and spread it across the entire offense. Like, sure, will they double Mikey Scott, or are they going to key in on an Isaiah Alston? That's going to leave former number 1 receivers, or at their prior programs, hopefully in single coverage, that we're expecting them to win. So I don't know. It's exciting to see what we can do.
Well, and the whole preparation thing, I mean, I don't think there's no better JMU display of this in our history, I don't think, than back in 2010 in the Virginia Tech game. I mean, that was a 6-6 JMU team, arguably statistically,
they were not good.
They were not a good team. but they brought out an offense that
Pistol
had
offense.
never been seen before. So I think the ability, I think Coach Chesney and his staff knows this, that there is an advantage that we're going to have being able to, we were lucky to come out of that game yesterday with a blowout win without really having to play a lot of our offense. There's an advantage that we have going into this game in that Louisville, the guys they have on their team are rated higher with their stars. But the guys that we have, they do not know what we're going to do. They just don't. And so I can't stress that enough. And again, focusing back on that 2010 Virginia Tech game.
Pistol offense. Guys, I think we should wrap with your cookout order because Taylor, now I'm hungry and I haven't eaten dinner yet. I don't even know what time it is, but I'm hungry. What's your go-to cookout order?
Cheeseburger, cheese curds, chicken quesadilla, sweet tea.
Okay. Michael?
I'll start with peanut butter fudge milkshake, the GOAT. And you've got to get a tray with their quesadilla. I like their chicken tenders. And then I'll throw in a cheeseburger on top too.
I'm getting the Cajun chicken sandwich. I'm getting the same milkshake as you. I am also going with the spicy chicken quesadilla as a side. Sometimes, though, I will throw in the little, the corn dog nuggets? Those are pretty money too.
Those are pretty good.
Or the hush puppy. I'm a hush puppy guy. So I know
their chicken tenders are pretty elite. I'm just going to throw
Chandler's is a cookout super fan. I wish he was in this room because I would ask him his order because I know he has it down pat. But guys, great episode as always. Great experience. Any final thoughts just across the board, Taylor?
I just got a few. I got to highlight some of next week's games that I'm kind of staring at right now. Actually, I want to highlight one thing about yesterday. I know we spent this whole episode saying that week one doesn't tell a whole lot of things. I'm going to kind of reverse that. It was 7-7 Liberty Maine going into the fourth quarter last week. So take that for what you will. Games next week that I'm looking forward to: Texas State and my former employer, UTSA. UTSA put up some good numbers against A&M last week, and Texas State put up some big numbers late against a lesser Eastern Michigan team. I think that game is going to be interesting for Sunbelt fans, not because you're a big fan of Duke Abatatot and UTSA, but Texas State in the West right now, the Sun Belt did not look good this week. I think App looked decent against Charlotte. I don't think Charlotte's that good. I think Old Dominion's defense looked really good. I think they have some stuff to work out on offense against Indiana. Again, I mentioned the Texas State game, but Louisiana losing to Rice, that kind of hurts. Georgia State did not look good against Ole Miss. Southern Miss, Mississippi State. I don't think Mississippi State's that great of an SEC team. I do know Georgia State plays Memphis coming up this week, so that's a game that I'm going to have my eye on. We also have Tulane, South Alabama. John, you've always hinted at the importance of those Sun Belt American Conference games. And then a big one that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, South Florida against number 15 Florida. We're going to kind of see, is South Florida a pretender or the real thing in the G5 race going into week 2. So South Florida is my kind of game that I'm going to be keeping the eye on next week.
I just want to say thanks for nothing, ODU. I said I was going to wear a Monarch shirt. I was going to root for them. Early on, I'm getting people.
Wasn't it like 7-7 at halftime? Like
I know, that's what I'm saying. I got excited. I allowed myself to care, and then as soon as I cared, Chandler heard me. He's like, "It's of course they couldn't pull it off." I needed that from them, so now I'm back to hating them again.
I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about our frenemies in Boone. I think they were pretty impressive versus Charlotte. I think they won like 34-10. I think that was the score Friday night.
11.
34-11. That's
Something
what it
weird
was.
like that, yeah.
Hey, they took care of Charlotte, which is all good for me. That's an American school. And also, Taylor, I'm really disappointed in you. Did you not know that Jackson Gilkey, Weber State's quarterback, transferred from?
Guys, did Michael not listen to the episode last week?
I don't think he did. He did. He knew
I was hoping for it today.
Listen,
he was traveling.
We got a UTSA shout out last week for the Weber State quarterback. But Michael, as you put on Twitter or X earlier today, me and my boys, we were focused on making sure Weber State knew that Weber was not a state. And
this did make it known. If you were listening to anything yesterday, your kids were engaged and loud. They made sure that we were heard they were not a state. I was impressed.
So here's my shout out to Courtney Evangelista. Pish posh applesauce. Weber is not a state.
We're gonna make T-shirts of that, by the way. She's
We're gonna make that and the 40 flavors milkshakes thing to define our offense. I don't know how we're gonna do it. But
one more shout out to Mike Norwood. He hung out with us a lot at the tailgate. I got my new shirt on. John's got his on.
I got yours in the bag. I know Afton's got, everyone's got ones. These are sharp, Mike. Nicely
Got
done.
the Where's Woody hats that are always looking good. So I want to shout out to Mike Norwood. It was neat talking to him yesterday, and just he really believes in just kind of the brand, the context. I think there's a lot of exciting things for Where's Woody coming up in the future.
Love it, guys. It's a game week again. See everybody who's making the trip. Safe travels. Enjoy the experience. Thank you to everyone who came up to say hello to us yesterday. It's always awesome to hear that you guys appreciate the show, that you appreciate the content. It's never taken in vain. We continue to see really impressive growth across all of our channels. That's because you believe in what we're doing. And stay tuned. We've got some more giveaways coming up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing some fun stuff with our sponsors. If you're a tailgater out there, the Dead Meat Society is looking to highlight you and your efforts. They've got some great swag. Yeah, Bada Todd. Hey, not only for good football players, for good tailgaters as well. So shout out again to our sponsors, Skyline Financial Partners, Champions Drive, Where's Woody, Purple Nation, Shoker Enterprises, the Dead Meat Society, and Outdoor Kitchen Creations. Guys, we will see you in Louisville. And as always, go Dukes. Talk to you guys soon.